There's a pattern that I've seen over and over again. Two people with similar savings, similar incomes, and even similar retirement date. But they step away from work and one feels calm and confident, but the other, they feel anxious and uncertain. So what made the difference? It wasn't luck and it wasn't timing, and it wasn't about how much they actually had in the market. The difference came from a few key decisions that they made back in their early 50s. Because the happiest retirees I know, they didn't wait until 65 to get serious about planning. They used their 50s to shift gears, to stop thinking like savers and to start thinking like future retirees. And they made those changes, and that made all the difference in how they prepared and they felt, not just financially, but emotionally and practically. Hi, I'm Scott Norris. I'm an investment advisor with Royal Fund Management. And ever since 1999, I've worked with individuals and couples preparing for retirement, many of whom came to me in their 50s wondering if they were doing the right things. And what I can tell you is this: the clients who entered retirement with the most peace of mind weren't the ones that had the highest balances. They were the ones that took the right steps early enough to build a plan that they could actually rely on. So in this video that I'm going to share the 3 most powerful changes that I've seen the happiest retirees make starting at about around age 50. And if you find this helpful, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to talk through how this could look for your own retirement, you can book a free call with me using the link in the description below. So let's get started. Part 1. They shifted from the accumulation phase to the planning phase. For most of your working life, the focus is pretty simple. Save as much as you can, max out your 401k, contribute to your IRA, pay down your mortgage, put something aside for your emergencies. That's called the accumulation phase, and it's typically where many people stay for decades. But here's the thing: the happiest retirees that I've worked with, they made a deliberate shift at around age 50. They stopped thinking about not only growing their money, they started thinking about how they were going to use their money. That shift from saving to planning might be subtle, but it's very powerful. They began asking questions like, how much will I actually need to live the way that I want? Am I saving in the right types of account, or am I just creating a future tax problem? If I stopped working earlier than expected, would my current plan support me? How will all that I save turn into income when I stop working? And maybe most importantly, what is the money actually going to be used for? That's when I feel things really start to click. Because at some point, the measure of success is no longer how big is your portfolio. It's whether that portfolio is working for you, whether it provides you enough income, whether it gives you flexibility and control, whether it's protected from sequence of return risk and unnecessary taxes, whether it aligns with your values and your lifestyle and the way you want to live. The happiest retirees didn't wait until they were 65 to figure all that out. Around age 50, they began to run real income projections, not just using retirement calculators. They started organizing their accounts, knowing that Roth IRA, pre-tax, and brokerage accounts all play different roles in tax-efficient withdrawal plans. They rebalanced their investment strategy to match their changing time horizon, and they built a retirement roadmap that helped them avoid surprises and make smarter decisions in their 60s and 70s. In short, they stopped flying blind. They moved from how much can I save to how I can use what I've saved intentionally and with confidence. That shift from accumulation to actual retirement planning gave them a head start. And by the time retirement arrived, they weren't just guessing anymore. They were prepared. Part 2, they took control of their time and expenses. When most people think about retirement, they think about a date. I'm gonna retire at age 62 or 65 or 70. But the happiest retirees that I've worked with, they didn't treat retirement like a cliff that they had to jump off of. They treated it like a transition, one that they could rehearse for and prepare long before their actual last day of work. And one of the biggest areas that they focused on was time and expenses. Here's what that looked like at around age 50. They began to ask, what will my lifestyle actually cost me on a month-to-month basis in retirement? How will I spend my time when I'm not working working 40 or 50 hours or more in a week? What expenses can I start to simplify now so I'm not rushed later? These weren't theoretical questions. They started testing the answers in real life. Some of them began tracking their spending, not to penny pinch, but to understand just where their money was actually going. Others decided to downside or maybe refinance or put a timeline on paying off their mortgage, not because someone told them to, but because they saw the freedom that it could give them in the future. Some explored phased retirement, cutting back on hours or switching to a part-time consulting to see what life after full-time work might really feel like. This gave them 3 powerful advantages. Number 1, clarity on their spending needs. They weren't guessing what retirement would cost. They had lived it, at least in some form. They knew what was essential, what was flexible, and what truly added value to their life. So when it came time to build a retirement income plan, they had a much more accurate and realistic target to plan around. Number 2, confidence in their timeline. Some realized they were in better shape than they thought, and they had the freedom to retire earlier or slow down sooner, while others discovered that they enjoyed parts of their work and wanted to keep it going, but on their own term. Either way, they weren't locked into someone else's retirement age. They felt that they had options and confidence in their choices. Number 3, a stronger sense of purpose by thinking about time, not just money. They were more prepared for the emotional side of retirement. They'd begun exploring their hobbies, their routines, their family commitments, and maybe volunteer work that gave them more meaning outside of their job title. And that helped them retire into something, not just stepping away from work. So while many people in their 50s are focused on the financial side of retirement, the happiest ones I know are focused on what they want to live. They took control of their expenses and their time before retirement forced them to. And that helped them to make their transition smoother, less stressful, and a whole lot more fulfilling. Part 3, they took taxes seriously. One of the biggest planning mistakes I see is waiting until retirement to think about your taxes. It's understandable. While you're working, taxes are mostly straightforward. You earn a paycheck, taxes are withheld, you file your return, done. But the happiest retirees I know, they realize something most people don't. Once you stopped working, your taxes don't go away. They just get a little bit more complicated, and they didn't want to wait until their 60s or 70s to figure that out. They started thinking strategically about taxes in their 50s when they still had time to make meaningful adjustments. Here's what they focused on. 1, they looked beyond just deferring taxes. They weren't focusing just on maxing out traditional 401ks and IRAs. Instead, they asked themselves, am I overloading my portfolio with pre-tax accounts that will be taxable later? Will my required minimum distributions put me into a higher tax bracket in my 70s? Am I unintentionally creating a future tax trap for myself or possibly my spouse? And they took steps to fix it early. They explored Roth strategies while still working, and by the age of 50, many people are in their peak earning years, but that doesn't mean Roth contributions or Roth conversions are off the table. In my opinion, the happiest retirees often contributed to their Roth 401ks if they had one available, especially if their employer offered a match. They explored backdoor Roth strategies if they were over the income limits. They started modest Roth conversion in years where bonuses or incomes were lower to begin repositioning their savings for long-term flexibility. They weren't trying to avoid their taxes. They were trying to pay taxes on their terms. 3, they planned for future withdrawal strategies, not just contributions. They didn't just ask how to save, they asked, where will I withdraw first from in my retirement? How do I balance between pre-tax, Roth accounts, and brokerage accounts? What's my tax bracket going to look like between when I retire and when my RMDs are going to kick in at age 73? By running those numbers early, they give themselves a game plan for keeping taxable income in check, minimizing taxes on your Social Security income, and avoiding the Medicare IRMAA surcharges that can quietly erode retirement income. Number 4, They looked at the big picture, not just their own return. The happiest retirees that I've worked with also considered how taxes would affect not only themselves, but their spouse if something were to happen to them, their heirs, especially with the changing estate planning rules, and their charitable goals. If they plan to give in retirement, they understood that good tax planning isn't just about saving money today, it's about building control into the future. And here's the key insight most people think. Taxes will just be lower in my retirement. But with larger IRA balances, Social Security and RMDs, and fewer reductions most likely, many retirees find that their tax bill is just as high or possibly even higher than they expected in retirement. The happiest retirees that I've worked with didn't wait until it was too late to find that out. They used their 50s to take action so that they could enter retirement knowing that their income plan wasn't just built for lifestyle, but also efficiency. So if you're in your 50s right now, here's what I want you to take away. You don't have to wait until retirement to start feeling confident about it. In fact, some of the most meaningful progress happens well before your last day of work. The happiest retirees that I've worked with didn't try to time the market. They didn't obsess over some perfect retirement number. They made a few simple, intentional shifts starting in their early 50s. They moved from saving to planning. They took control of their spending and their time. And they tackled tax strategy before it became an urgent matter. These weren't dramatic life changes, but they were thoughtful, proactive steps that led to something very powerful. Clarity. They knew where they stood. They knew how to adapt, and they knew their plan wasn't built on guesswork. It was built to last. That's what helped give them peace of mind, and it can give you that too. If you want help building a retirement plan that goes beyond generic rules of thumb, one that gives you real clarity around income, taxes, and lifestyle, if you'd like to explore how these strategies could apply to your situation, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And you can schedule a no-cost obligation call using the link below, because retirement is a process, not an event. It doesn't just happen. It's built one smart financial decision at a time. And I believe the best time to start is now.